People have certainly noticed the higher water levels around the Northwoods, and part of that can be attributed to the important dams on our waterways. To share some knowledge of just how these dams are affected the water that we see around us, we're joined by water management engineer Forrest Van Asten of the Wisconsin DNR. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, yes. Yes, it's been a very unusual year. We had, over the last year, a lot of drought, a lot of severe drought in our area. Even going into the spring, we were in some cases of severe drought. And then we switched to 180 and started getting some really heavy rain events. So with this heavier rains and more common rains that we've been seeing around here, it's been a good thing that we went into this weather period with dry weather. It seems like our natural water systems were able to, I guess, buffer these heavier rains just because we were in such a drought leading into this spring.
Definitely some good news there. And also, we've had a lot of rain, of course, that we mentioned, and lakes and rivers are roughly high or reasonable, at least around the Northwoods. So what do dams play in controlling those?
Yes, you know, the purpose of a dam is to impound water at a regular elevation, right? Keep an impoundment at an average elevation. When it comes to large rain events like we've seen, the main job of a dam is to be able to pass all the flow that comes into that lake as quickly as possible. Basically, to whatever comes into that system, a dam's purpose is to allow that to flow out at the same rate. Most of the dams in our north central area of the state are not designed for flood control. They're really designed for other purposes. So you may see more flood control dams that are meant to attenuate flood flows in more the southwest portion of the state in the driftless area. There's a lot of flood control dams. Most of our dams in this area are for hydropower generation, storage reservoirs, or just recreational dams to create lakes and rivers to boat on, fish on, that sort of thing.
And how many major dams are in the waterways of your area that you oversee?
Yeah, so I cover the north central portion of the state. I have 7 counties: Lincoln, Langlade, Oneida, Forest, Vilas, and Iron counties. In those counties alone, there are over 300 dams, believe it or not. Just over 100 of those dams are classified as large dams, which are the more prominent dams in the landscape that people see out there. So definitely a lot of dams. The state itself has over 3,900 dams.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot of dams.
Something you don't think about, right?
It's something you really don't think about. And not all dams are big dams like you see around here, like the dam on Boom Lake or Hat Rapids. Some dams are only a few feet tall. Some dams are maybe the size of this couch, if not smaller.
Oh, really? That's small, yeah.
Yeah, so not everybody thinks of those small dams, but a lot of natural lakes in our area that have outlets have really small dams on them that control the lake level to maintain a constant elevation. And some of those are small enough that you can step right over them.
Wow. Now, would a goal of these dams also would be to kind of help maybe try to prevent erosion?
Some of these dams, all dams usually provide just a little bit of buffering from flood events, even if they're not designed to. You know, they can store a little bit of flood flow, but for the most part, they need to let that water that comes in go through. When you've got dams designed for flood control, the main goal is to buffer those heavy flows so that they aren't flooding out people downstream, causing erosion.
Yeah, definitely. And how have the dams kind of handled all the extra water and rainfall we've had recently?
In our area of the state, we haven't received reports of any issues that I know of, so that's good. It seems like we've been getting a lot of rain, but it's been spread out over enough storms that there's enough time for these impoundments to be able to pass those flows safely. We're not getting hit with one giant storm that's going to overwhelm them.
And how have these how much energy levels are the dams producing on average? And how does that kind of work, I guess?
Well, actually, in Oneida County, we have 2 different hydropower dams. The one right here that makes Boom Lake and also the Hat Rapids Dam. Each of those generates about 2,000 kilowatts of energy. And those are both on the Wisconsin River system. The Wisconsin River itself has 25 hydroelectric dams on its course through the state. Generally, as you get farther downstream, the more flows and the bigger the dams and the more power generation. We're at the upstream end of it, but about 4,000 kilowatts in Oneida County.
And this is kind of a general question, but with the Manawa, Wisconsin dam failing earlier this month from erosion, how important is dam maintenance and to prevent something like that happening, you know, in our area even?
Yes, a lot of our dams are aging infrastructure, and that makes inspections important. In the state, there are laws on required engineering inspections of dams to make sure that they're safe or to find problems and be able to fix them. Repairs are very important to maintain dams. Another thing that we do is large dams in the state have to have an emergency action plan, which is a plan of action for if the worst were to happen, knowing what to do, who to contact, who to evacuate if necessary, having that plan ahead of time so in case the worst does happen, we have a plan to know what to do to keep everybody safe. Human safety is the most important thing when it comes to that.
Definitely. And yet, having that plan, I'm sure, in emergencies, definitely important for that overall. And is there any maybe concerns about, with the rainfall or upcoming rainfall that you guys are monitoring or thinking about?
Yes, engineers across the state are always monitoring stream elevation, stream flows, that sort of thing. At the moment, it looks like the rain is idling down a little bit, which is a good thing. It does look like the very south end of the state still has some elevated river flow, so that's probably the area of the state to pay attention to. In the Northwoods up here, in general, stream flows seem to be about normal, so at the moment, no big concerns as long as we don't get any surprise large rain events in the near future.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the storms go as we get towards the weekend, and next week things kind of becoming a little bit more active again, more of that general summertime pattern stuff. So it could be one of those cases where some areas get a lot of rain and others don't. So that's kind of the fun part of summer.
And I know you'll be monitoring it, Devin,
We will be,
in all
yep.
weather. So thank you so much for joining us, Forrest.
Yes, thank you for
really
having me.
appreciate it.